started off as an ordinary girl, going to school in a campus. So at that time, my father was working in Bharat Heavy Plates and Vessels Limited. It's a public sector group company. He being a mechanical engineer, he was working there. And I grew up in that campus. It was a public sector campus. So I had kind of a very good extended, family. Because everybody in that campus was working for that firm, that public sector firm, and we all grew together, all their children and me together as an extended family. So I'm blessed with that campus life since my childhood, for which I'm very thankful today, because there was that love, bonding, affection, and also fairly healthy competition among all of us, to excel in whatever we are doing, to have goals, career goals, and excel in whatever we were trying to do, even at the school level. So we had a very good schooling inside the campus, which was run on the central school system, that is the Kendriya Vidyalaya system. Although it was a privately managed school set up by the firm itself, the public relations group of the firm, but it was run on the CBSE board. So we used to, of course, the exams and everything were conducted. The curriculum was accordingly, based on the CBSE system and all that. We had very good teachers. I tell you how good they are, that we never ever thought of even, going for or hiring a tutor, in any of the subjects. So I think I give full credit and all my respect to my teachers in my early childhood, during my formative years. So, and they were like, again, a family, not only teachers, they are like my extended uncles and aunts, because they also used to live on the campus, and they were open to discussion even after the school hours. So that, I think, is a very good foundation for any child, for a very established career in her life, or his life, in fact, in the long run. So that being the foundation, we had, as I said, I used to be, of course, we used to play together, all of us with the boys. So in those days when I had finished 12th, so that was my schooling until 12th that happened in the campus on the CPA. And then everybody was thinking of going for the competitive exams. So I also was thinking along those lines, because we were all together, playing together and planning together. So then I thought of taking up engineering as a career, because at that time I had not much vision, but for myself, but because I was playing with all the boys in the class, and they were all going for engineering profession. So I also went along with them. So frankly speaking, that was my, when they said that we are going to take this competitive exams, I said, they are taking, I am taking, that's it. So my mom said, why engineering? Ladies prefer teaching, or so you can take B.Ed and, or you go for medicine. I said, I don't think, I'm a little afraid of blood and all that, seeing blood. I did not like blood. So I said, no, I'm not going for that medicine where that dissection and those, scalpels and all I have to hold. So that was a no. So the next option was what everybody was doing. Frankly speaking, I never had my own personal agenda. So that was one thing. Of course, there was a cousin of my father's who had done civil engineering, who was one generation earlier to mine, because my father's sister or cousin. So she did her engineering. I remember my father telling me about her and how she, went to a boys' school, which was, in that generation and all that. And probably that was there at the back of my mind when I said, yes, why not? When my mom said, why don't you go for these two professions, more feminine professions? I mean, so then that's how I ended up, taking the entrance along with the boys, getting a rank, and then applying for engineering seat, and that's how I got in my hometown. So my father said, okay, it's not safe for you to go out of my out of your hometown, at this stage of your life, or so whatever you get here, whatever you can study here in the hometown. So that's how I ended up in the Andhra University College of Engineering at Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh, where my father was also working in the same city. So I went to a day scholar college, engineering college there, and finished my degree in chemical engineering. So after that, of course, they trust in me also increased, and they said, so when I was in the final year engineering, got selected for the ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Commission of India, ONGC, and Limited. And I got posting in, of course, at that time, my uncles and others, they said they discouraged me from going to a job, working as an engineer. But my father was very persistent. Uh, he would say that no, you have to attend the interviews just like the boys did. You had done the entrance, and henceforth you have to still go. I'll help you, wherever you need to be taken to the interviews and all. So the interview was conducted in Dehradun Tel Bhavan. So he accompanied me all the time and all the while, and took me for the interview. And then when I got the job finally, posting was in Bandra. So that was when I also wrote. So there was a problem in ONGC at that time, that there was some problem. I think one of the ONGC employees got kidnapped in Assam. While Assam, ONGC Assam. And so I think the order got delayed. The formal orders got delayed. So in the meantime, I wrote an All India exam called GATE. That's a graduate aptitude test. And that's for engineers. So I got a score in that as well, the All India score. So now I have a choice with me for going for higher studies or joining the job. When it was finally, the formal letter came to me, I had this choice. And then my parents again insisted that why don't you complete your studies before, because jobs you will get another. Why don't you complete your studies? If you have an inclination to study more, you better finish your master's as well. So that's how I ended up doing my master's at IIT Kharagpur, in the petroleum engineering and refinery systems, subgroup or sub branch of chemical engineering. So this was a master's. Master's consists of both, credits that you earn with the subjects, as well as a thesis that you submit, in the second year and at the end of the second year of your master's. So that thesis, I think I was again blessed with a very good supervisor, Professor B.K.B. Rao. And he, with his guidance, under his guidance, I ended up getting the All India, a national award for my MTech master's thesis, and a cash award. So that was handed over, I think, by the ISTL IPCL award. It was handed over by the Chief Minister of Karnataka, because it was, I think, the function was hosted by NIT Suratkal at that time. So my father took me there, and then that award was given. So that was a big encouragement to me at that time, getting that award. So when I went for the award, I just as my parents predicted, and immediately after that award, I saw that I had a host of jobs, in front of me, choices to join, where both the private and the public sector engineering companies, including Reliance and everything. So at that moment, I think at that time, my parents were looking, they said that you are well above your teenage, you are into your 22nd year. So you must get married now. We have a responsibility for you. So that's what they said. And I said, see, you have finished masters, you have choices of so many jobs in front of you. Now you better get married, so that we don't need to bother or think more about you, your spouse, and you can plan together where to go and all. So then they had some matches. It was because and then they also asked me. So I finally ended up saying that, okay, I had so many good friends. I have been seeing a lot of good friends around me. So I think I'll choose from among whom I know well, instead of matchmaking. So and then you let me know whether my choice is okay with you people or not. So I ended up my classmate, my BTech classmate is a topper in the class, and ended up marrying. So that way I ended up marrying him. Yeah. So that's how I got my life partner. And so together we worked at Vishakhapatnam. So I had the good fortune of getting into a campus recruitment, campus placement job. And it happened to be a Vishakhapatnam company where my father himself works, so a BHPV group. Yeah. So my father said that, okay, you're just engaged, so why not spend some time with us? And then, of course, you and your husband will move out anyways. So that's why I took that job, and I worked for about 2 years in the system engineering group, which designs refinery systems, like oil gas separator vessels, then firefighting for oil terminals, oil is refinery terminals, and all that. So I ended up working and making good friends there. And my husband at the time was working in another company, EID Parry Group, in the same city. And 2 years henceforth, 2.5 years we spent there. And then he had a very good offer from Madras, a Chennai-based company. So he said that I would like to move there. Then I said, okay, fine, I will also move along with you and resign that job. And then I went and I accompanied him to Chennai, Madras, and he worked for APL Limited, and I also applied there and got a job, and that's how there we designed peroxygen plants for different companies, for different clients, and it's both design, engineering, and they also had a production plant going on at Nellore in Andhra Pradesh near Sulurpet. That's Sriharkota, the rocket launching station. Very near to that, they had their own plant which produced hydrogen peroxide. So that's how I ended up having a plant experience. At that time, ladies were not allowed into the plant, into huge production plants. They were not allowed to stay inside the plants, but just because luckily we were designing these hydrogen peroxide plants while in the Madras office or the Chennai office. However, because my husband was there along with me, so I insisted that I go and stay in the plant when there were plant problems. He was actually deputed there. So that's how so they agreed because of his being along with me. So him being along with me. So that's how I got plant experience there. So that strengthened my chemical engineering knowledge further. Otherwise, ladies will usually in those days would never get a chance to go and stay in the plant and see the working plant day to day, and go and see, troubleshoot the problems that arise in these plants. So that usually that experience will not be there because nobody takes responsibility for one single lady. So the whole plant, I was the only lady. So these were some of the things at that time, when in the profession, which is rather new to the female community at that time. Okay, now of course the things have changed for the better. So that's how. Then of course, then I went on my family way. So I was pregnant, and I had to take this leave, maternity leave, towards the end. And when I took the leave and then delivered my baby boy, I had a little, because in the plant, I used to work almost 22 hours a day. So literally, I was in the plant at that time when I was alone. I'm not having the responsibility of an infant or anything. But things, have changed, isn't it? With the entry of the baby in our lives. Then I saw that I'll not be able to give that much time to my career. So at that time, I extended the maternity was 6 months. I extended it on no pay leave for another 6 months. So that 6 and 6, this 1 year gave me some time to think over, and then finally I decided to resign this job, wherein it will, force me to be away from my baby for long hours, which I did not like. And henceforth, I resigned that job and then took took time to look after the baby. Of course, without my mother, I wouldn't have done that. I had my mother's support all along. In rearing my son. So then I decided that after a while, I decided that I can go back now, but I'll choose another profession, wherein the juggling between the personal and this career will be easier. From my perspective. So then I said, I again go back to academics first, because for that I need to, if I have to switch over the career from engineering to teaching, I'll have to, I have to do another degree at least, higher studies. So at that time when I delivered the baby and my baby was infant and I was staying with my parents in Visakhapatnam, my supervisor of my MTech thesis from IIT Kharagpur visited me to see the baby. So I just put forth these ideas which were going in my mind to him, saying that would it be possible that I register for a PhD under you and continue the same research topic of my master's? So he said, why not? Yeah, you can always come and join. So that's when, so that's how and then my mother also came forward to help me support me, and she said, I'll take care of your son with here, and you can come every weekend and look after him and you start studying again. So that's how I joined PhD, and I completed it. Of course, so there was some, then I had a CSIR fellowship. I got a award of the CSIR fellowship. So I was asked to make a choice of any of the CSIR labs. So as my husband was working in Bombay at that time for a German company, I said, I think the National Chemical Laboratory Pune would be the nearest to him. So that's when I shifted. Registration was in IIT Kharagpur, but I went to NCL Pune and completed my work. I did my research there. And I used to go up and down to Bombay every weekend, traveling by that local Indriani Express, which goes on Friday and then come back Monday morning. So that's how I used to, go up and down and manage. And then finally completed my PhD in the year 2001, when I had opportunity to go to Hong Kong, for an international conference. And at that time, I met many of the plenary professors, from other universities abroad and from the USA and all. So I met Professor Arvind Verma from the University of Notre Dame there, and during my conversation with him, and after my talk in the conference, I asked him about a postdoctoral fellowship in his university under his group. And he said, yeah, I think I will offer you that. I have listened to your talk, in the conference and all. So that's how I ended up doing a postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Chemical Engineering at the University of Notre Dame from 2001 to 2003. And in the meantime, my husband was actually in the commissioning. So he was commissioning chemical plants. So he was on a touring job. So I took my son, my parents, and then finished that. So all along, my parents were there, strong support for me. And of course, encouragement from my in-laws. My husband's family were always, my mother-in-law, although she was not highly educated, but she said, I know how I regretted not being highly educated. So I'll not stop you from studying, anything you want. And under the sun, just see that you both adjust to your tough life. That's it. So I had a very cooperative friend as my husband, So he was first a friend and then my husband. So probably that advantage I had. Not many ladies may have that advantage. So he, with his encouragement, he said, anyways, I'm on a touring job. I hardly, come home and all. So why don't you finish all your studies, whatever you want? So that's how I completed my postdoctoral fellowship there. There I worked for the Indiana State funded project on carbon-carbon composites for aircraft brake systems, brake landing systems. So my work was to analyze the oxidation process of the matrix in the carbon-carbon composites, which are used to make aircraft brake systems, for landing. So here it was actually a collaborative project with Purdue University, University of Notre Dame, and there is an aircraft brake systems in South Bend, Indiana. There's a company which was interested in that. So we had, and the whole thing was funded by the State Fund of Indiana in USA. So this is the project that I worked in. My project took me to all these places, from time to time in those 2 years, and it was accepted. The analysis that I made was accepted in peer-reviewed journals there, and also it helped the aircraft brake systems, Indiana, to design the brake systems better, because once they know the stability of the matrix, they can improve the number of landings of the the aircraft. The brake systems, how many landings they can withstand, that they can they can improve the number of landings. Okay, smooth landings, I mean. So that's how. There again, I had a lot of opportunity to meet, both Indians, Asians, and of course Americans, Italians, Europeans, from different cultures. So there was kind of a very good cultural, exchange, as well as knowledge exchange. So that's how I had. Then, of course, time had come for me to apply for a permanent job, because postdoctoral research, you could not, you won't be continuing for a long time. So at that time, the head of the department of IIT Kharagpur, they were looking for faculty members, and that HOD happened to write to me saying that if you have finished your postdoctoral, are you thinking of applying here? So why don't you put in an application when you are thinking to apply here? We need faculty. There are many faculty retiring now. So I happened to then listen to him and then apply, and then get selected for the interview, do the interview and all that, and joined as an assistant professor at IIT Kharagpur. So that's a new teaching career, started in 2004 from January at IIT Kharagpur, India. And then so there I was there alone. My husband said, okay, after he had finished his commissioning from Mumbai, he started to look for jobs in Calcutta, nearby Kharagpur. But unfortunately, he was not happy with the job offers that he got either in Calcutta or in Kharagpur, near Kharagpur. So he said, let's move on to any whichever city, a bigger cities will have more opportunities for working couples. So that's how. So whichever you apply to all the IITs in the metros first, and see whichever will be offering that, there I will again try, because this Calcutta is a metro, but not good enough for chemical engineers. So that's how I ended up then applying for IIT Delhi, the capital city, and I got it in 2006. I applied and joined here after my son completed his 4th grade. And my husband also luckily he got a job here in Floor International, that's Floor Daniel India Private Limited. So that's how we are here since 2006. So I started off here as an assistant professor again. The service also was counted, of course, and then started off here as assistant professor, then associate, and then professor, and then chair here. So this is my whole, and my son went to the Mothers International School, which is across IIT campus here, which is another good thing about it is I was influenced by Sri Aurobindo and his works very young in my life, because one of my best friends, her parents and her father, her grandfather was the first president of the Aurobindo Ashram at IIT at Delhi. So on the Aurobindo Marg. So because of that, they had a strong Aurobindo, this thing, library of Aurobindo's works. And I used to go there and read often, but little did I know that my son will end up, in the Sri Aurobindo school, International Mother's School, International here, Mother's International School. So that's how, so I think we waded through life, I think very well. I tried to balance as much as possible. So this is in brief. So I think it's a combined effort of all these people, my parents, mostly my parents, I think. My mother is I mean, she worked as a mathematics teacher at that time. She was a BSc BA. And I remember her telling her story. I think her story was most inspiring to me. Sure, mothers are a great influence on all children. And if they have a story to inspire, I think the inspiration gets carried over. So she had, they were children, 6 children, and her two, by the time, in those days, there was only one working member in the house. That's the head of the family, the father. That's what. And then big families in those days, they had to be reared by one working member of the family, which was really tough. So by the time the father retired, her two brothers, younger brothers, were still in school, and it was really financially a big burden on them, with the meager pension those days, today. So, at that time, she immediately took up what usually those girls in those days would never have done. She went to the neighboring city, applied because she was a B.Ed, BSc B.Ed at that time. So she applied for teaching jobs, and she got it in a different city, a different town from hers, and I mean about 3 hours from her town, and she immediately went and joined. So that's how she supported her family and her brothers to complete their education, and only after that she married. So when she said that, I said, my God, what a decision you've made, like, so bold decision that you have made, for those days. Okay, now when you hear of such stories, they are not a big inspiring story, but those days, yes, and I think that was the first thing. And then my father also had narrated about how his cousin had studied, and he also how he encouraged his sisters to study. So these were some of the important, I think, and also of course my teachers, they would always reiterate whenever we would ask, so what should we girls do, they would say what should we girls do is not a question at all. Whenever we say something, it's for both girls and boys, it's not just for boys. When we say you must excel in your careers and all, it's not just for the boys of the class, it's for both boys and girls. We have not differentiated you, saying that you girls go and start cooking in the kitchen for your this thing. That's not we are trying to say. We are saying the same thing to both of you, and yes, the boys also have to learn a lot of household work, and the girls also have to go, for good careers. That's what. So that I think those people were also great influence, because I've seen lady teachers coming and telling us all these. Yeah, that's these two are the, I think, these two factors. And of course, that peer pressure. I think the peer pressure in a campus life is a tremendous push that I see, because I've seen that in my early, when I was a child growing up as a in a campus, and my child growing up in a campus as well. I've seen that peer pressure working to the success, towards the success of every child in the campus. Yeah, definitely. But not very big challenges, of course. If you see from now, from my perspective at this stage, but at that time, yes, one challenge was, of course, joining the engineering college was itself a challenge, because see, we were discouraged from joining engineering. In the extended family of my mother's side and all, they would say, now it's so difficult if you girl goes to these boys colleges, boys dominated colleges, because we were just five. Actually, our batch was really big. Otherwise, there were 2 girls or 3 girls or 1 girl per a class of 16. So that was the ratio at that time. So they would say that why no, why just ask her to go and go for arts, a bachelor's in arts, wherein convents are there for girls, convents and all. So why not? So that was one thing, to because I was almost thinking that they would not allow me to join engineering college. So that was a real mistake. Yeah, slowly you see when the pressure comes, even the parents will start thinking that okay, maybe there is some wisdom in all these elders telling this. Maybe we are, So I was afraid of that at that time, being young, very well. So that was a major challenge. The other challenge is, of course, going and working in a plant. I was very much keen on working in a chemical plant. You must, unless you see the production, the plant in at the size, that scale, of a working plant, the textbooks will not give you any. Will not help you much. Once the fundamentals are clear, you actually have to have a hands-on experience in a working chemical plant. You should actually soil your hands, with the working solutions, with all those materials and all the the fluids, the fluid flows, the valves, the pumps, yeah, all these things in the plant. That was almost a no-no. So when I was in the first job where I designed, after I designed in the design group, sitting in the office and designing, that is sizing these things, I wanted to go and see how it is commissioned, when they are actually put to work, working in the refinery, how would they work? So that was my very keen interest. But my bosses and all have not allowed. I said, no, we will have to have you, we should post some security for you and all that. It's an additional responsibility. Till now nobody has asked, and we have never asked, we have never given a chance for any girl to go. So it's fine that you are designing, you're getting your salary, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We don't want to take the risk. Basically, they didn't want to take the risks. Yeah. So that was a challenge, but that desire got fulfilled by, fortunately, because my husband was in the same company, happened to work in the same company as my husband, and hence in the same firm as my husband, and hence I could go there. That was one challenge. The other personal challenge was to rear my son. Um, to be away from him, was very, very tough for me, emotionally, on an emotional basis, leaving him an infant whom I should actually be nursing and feeding, to my mother's care. My mother also had a demanding house. At that time, my father was still in service, and she also had a demanding workload, but, in spite of that, so she came, I think, but for her support, I would have not been able to do much. Yeah, that was very challenging to leave my infant and then go for higher studies was a very, very challenging decision. That is one thing. The rest, of course, the usual difficulties of a working woman, I think I don't call them challenges. They're just difficulties. Yeah, that you should manage. Yes, so actually, success and failure at different stages of life mean differently. So I think 10 years before, or about 20 years before, success meant, wow. And I think the skies, I mean, I'm on the seventh cloud nine, yeah, the seventh heaven. So that's how it was at that time. And probably it also pushed my ego a little bit. I tended to be a little haughty also after success at that time. So 20 years, then the last 5 years, success meant more confidence in my work and more fulfillment, towards my, okay, what I'm doing. So that was in the last 10 years. And now success, I think, does not mean much at all. Just a thankfulness towards the divine. I think it means differently at different stages of your life as you grow, maybe age. Yeah, that's it. So that's how. Yeah, success. I attribute it to the success of the divine. It's not Sri Devi the individual at all. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with the failure. Failure went took me into the depths of depression at one point of time. That's about 20 years when I faced failures, either in some competitive exam or in the interviews. It was like it was difficult, but everybody has to go, gather around and bring me up, from my depression and all. And slowly with time, failures became a part of my life. I said, okay, yeah, that's good, next. Because I came into a profession where I'll have to encourage and keep giving pep talks to my students and others. So I think doing that over a long time actually made me a better, more emotionally stable person, and taking failure in my stride. So probably that also, yeah, the reaction towards failures has also changed over time. And both success and failure, reaction towards both of them has changed over time. And kind of equanimity has set in. Yeah, so I think the girls of these days are much smarter than we were in those days. So I don't think that my advice is really very important to us. But yeah, answering your question, I would say I think we don't need. I think boldness is one important thing for a woman, yeah, for anybody for that matter, but for a girl, that boldness should be there. And I think the focus on whatever they are doing, the belief that they can excel in whatever they have taken up, because it is very close to their heart. It's better to choose what is close to their heart, and that belief that this is what I would like to do. When they really need to focus on that. And then of course they have to be ready for both success and failure, and both of them should be taken in their stride. Well, it's easy for me to say at this stage. It's difficult at that age to whom I am giving this advice. But yes, I think from experience, from the wisdom of our experience, they have to see that they don't matter much as long as you actually shape into a very good human being. The divine has good plans for you, for each one of us, I mean. And I think just accepting, try while you're trying, you have to try your best. But you have to accept whatever result comes to you, whether it is what you expected or what you did not expect. So what I have seen is, I had the good fortune to work as an engineering professional as well as a teaching professional. So I had the good fortune to switch to different careers in my life, and also roles as mother, wife, and all that. So that way, I really I'm grateful to God for this. With that experience, I can say that my contribution to the society as an engineer is not so much, perhaps, than my contribution as a teaching faculty and a researcher and a scientist, and also a HRD, that is mentoring people, mentoring students and youngsters. So that way, I think I have reached a broader spectrum as a teaching faculty and a researcher. Yeah.
So if you do, you have a vision for Professor Sreedevi 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
10 years from now, 20 years from now, I think mentoring is my strong strength, and I'll continue to mentor youngsters. Yeah, if of course they would want my mentoring. Yeah, whether in job or out of job, whatever. Yeah. I think tell that Sridevi to stay cool. Because yeah, I think that is what she was not at that time. Yeah.
If you could go back in time and redo or relive something or undo something, what would that be and why?
Yes. Yeah, I think undo something. Yes. Probably one thing. that I had, because at that time the society was in such a way that although I got a seat luckily in my own hometown, but if I hadn't, and I also probably had got very good opportunities outside, which I did not explore because there was a pressure that you have to study, just as a day scholar, going from home to college and back to home by 6 or by 5:30 in the evening. So probably that is a little that I would like to undo, and then really go and fly very far away and explore. Yeah, yeah. That is one thing. So I think if your mind is focused on something higher every time, something higher in the sense to be a complete woman. I mean, to push yourself to how much you can achieve, either making a difference in somebody's life, or first being capable of making a difference to somebody's life. If your mind is focused, I think everybody will do whatever I did or even better. I think you yourself are a good example of that. Yeah, I do a bit of yoga. I have learned this Shambhavi Mahamudra inner engineering course from Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. That was recently, but much before, when we were in Mumbai. That was when I was in NCL. I had gone to a Hatha Yoga center there in Thane. So yeah, we had a quarter in Thane, in Vasant Vihar area of Thane in Mumbai. So there was this very good Guruji, Kadam Guruji. He was a Hatha yogi. Um, of course, this I stumbled onto this yoga and all by chance, in the sense to actually go, clear away my physical ailments. So I used to have a lot of allergies, and because of this traveling, whenever there's change of water and change of air, I used to have a lot of stuffed nose, upper respiratory tract infections, and all that, and kind of went through very much, a lot of suffering physically. So somebody suggested that I go for this yoga and cleaning dhautis and all those, cleaning, nostril cleaning and all that. So that's how I joined that. But then I saw that all my faculties, the concentration levels, my emotional, stability level, everything started increasing while I'm doing. So the first step was actually to be more physically fit, so that I can accomplish all these, go around and do my work more efficiently. But I then saw that there was very much this thing, and then my attitude towards life in general, towards my peer group, and all this have started to improve my interpersonal relationships with everybody. I said, yeah, so I think there is a change I had observed in myself doing that yoga, which actually was meant for the physical, physical fitness first. So that made me continue that. That's how, and so I follow it. And then recently, I think when we were in Delhi, these Isha yoga people had come to all corporate. So they had gone to my husband's office and given this online, that little bit of engineering first, the preparatory exercise of 3 months, a CD which with the preparatory exercise. And after those 3 months, so he just brought it home and said, let's try this, because anyway you must have forgotten. There was a gap, a little gap of my that Hatha yoga I used to have 45 minutes or so, and then so I had to leave it in between for a while when I was doing my postdoc or something like that. Then to just refresh those mudras and all, I said, okay, that's good. When if they are coming in 3 months, then to give the Shambhavi, I think it's good that I brush my yoga fundamentals and all. So that's how I followed that. And then we took that Shambhavi Mahamudra in this stadium, Tyagaraja Stadium in Delhi, when Sadhguru came. And that's how we continue, because that's actually of a shorter duration, 21 minutes. Yeah, the one thing now that I want to do, I think, are none of these. I think travel quite a lot all over the world and within India. Not a big adventurous, swimmer or scuba diver and all, but what is very important for me to now know now is who am I? I have to find out. Yeah, that's one thing that I would like to follow, and I got influenced by Ramana Maharshi. Yeah, and his Who Am I book, and also by Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, who has written the book, Eckhart Tolle's books, in fact, not one, The Power of Now. Okay, so that power of now, and even there also he mentions this greatest saint of India, who had passed away in 1950, who has left his mortal body, but who actually has investigated. I have to research deep into this I that we keep telling. I did this, I did that, I got up, I went there, I achieved, I got this award. Who is that I? Yeah, is this? Because it cannot be this changing body that it is. Can be the mind which has been changing for me since my teenage. I remember it has changed drastically. So who is this I? Yeah, if anybody can tell me, or I myself can investigate. These are the things that, yeah.